Hey, it's Frank Baker from Casual Cosplay 101, and today I wanted to go through and look at my very first cosplay build. This guy. This photo was taken at the Tidewater Comic Con in Virginia Beach. I'll go through and show you a couple of the painting techniques used, along with some structural elements that you may want to incorporate into your builds. So the main painting technique on most of this build was this hammered metal appearance, which you can kind of see here on this bracer. That was probably 90% of the effects on this build. So how did I achieve this? Well, I did it like this. We started with the base coat, which in this case we'll go with the black undercoat, and took a piece of paper, rip off a sheet of paper, and basically pushed it in the middle and bunched it all up. So you kind of got this jagged portion at the top. And then I basically use this as a stamp to go back and stamp on the top coat, which in this case we would use this aluminum. Now you have the choice of either spraying it right on. If I had gloves, I'd just spray it right on and do it. But for this case, I'm gonna spray it on this, kind of make my own little palette here with this piece of cardboard. And then all you have to do is take this, dab it on there, and then go and just start stippling sort of that effect onto. And the more you go over it, you'll pull some paint off. You'll leave some residual. Where it doubles up, it'll have a little bit higher sheen. And where it's not quite as thick, it will blend in a little, be a little duller. Nice thing about this is you don't waste a bunch of money with paintbrushes and things like that. You can pick larger pieces of paper or smaller pieces. And it's really, you have control over how much you go over it. The more you go over it, obviously the more silver it's going to put down. And then if you want a lighter, you would just go a little less. But basically that was the technique that I used over the entire build. The only other painting technique I used was on the helmet and the gun barrel mostly, where I wanted a weathered kind of look, where it looks kind of grimy and dirty. The way I did this was you would put down your base coat. So in this case, it was the maroon color. And I went back with just regular old acrylic paint, and with a paintbrush, applied it, covering the whole helmet. And then with either a paper towel, or I've seen people use cotton balls, you just wipe it off, and it will leave in the low spots and some of the imperfections, and along in some areas some residual, and that kind of gives you a nice dirty weathered appearance if you're going for that look. And those are really the two techniques that I used for this build. So the biggest part of this build was obviously the gun arm for Trapjaw. This was broken down into two parts, so I built it in two pieces. The first part being the actual arm itself, which I started at the shoulder by using a plastic paint can. Ended up being a good size for me to kind of build it around my shoulder. And then everything else on here is foam, except for the L wire, electroluminescent wire that runs through those two and then through that little section in there. All the controls for all of the L wire is up in here. This Velcro's on. There's an on-off switch. The nice thing about the L wire is it has a nice neon appearance. It also has 3 different settings. There were some reviews online that talked about the hum that you can hear. I really didn't have a problem with that. Normally when you're at a con, it's not a library, it's kind of chaotic and loud. So I didn't really hear the humming. It wasn't really an issue for me. It's nice because it's also got 3 settings. You can do like a flash, a pulse, or just solid on the whole time, and it runs off batteries. So that's all housed up in this unit here. And this arm, on the places where I wanted a weld kind of seam, which would be like in this section here, I ended up trying something new. I found this air drying modeling clay, and it actually worked really good. It's really easy to work with. It's very light, and it dries pretty quick. And I used that on a couple of pieces. The arm obviously stops about the wrist, and this works in conjunction with obviously the gun. The gun is actually what holds the arm up, because inside the gun, that arm circle actually fits pretty much exactly in here, and in there I have a handle. And that handle is PVC. There is some PVC on this. There is a T here. It has a handle. And then I've got the 2 90s that just kind of coppered out. And then the PVC actually off this front 90 runs down and then runs the length of the barrel. So this is actually PVC wrapped in foam for the length of the barrel. On these sections here, this is just foam that I heated up and molded. And then for this seam in the middle, again, I went back with the air drying modeling clay to fill that in. Inside the gun, it's pretty tight when you put your hand in there. I didn't want it to be super big, but you'll notice on the left-hand side here, I have this little pouch. I actually use that to keep my driver's license and my credit cards, because when you're at a con, storage for things like cell phones and credit cards and car keys can kind of be a challenge. So you may want to think about ways to incorporate it actually into your build so that you don't have any last minute decisions to make on how to modify your build. The other part that I used for storage was my belt. So for the belt, it's all foam again. It's got the little thumbtacks I used for like a studded kind of look. But on the back side, I actually created this little pouch, and this will actually hold my cell phone. So if I need my cell phone, it's right in my waistband, pretty easy access, and it keeps it somewhere where I can keep a check on it, make sure it doesn't fall out or anything. It's pretty accessible at most times. Those 3 pieces were the largest 3 builds. I am going to be going back and doing some modifications on my gun just to add some more detailing, possibly some more lights, maybe some venting, things like that. Maybe I'll post some pictures if I get that done. Again, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to drop them below.